these are the people who I want to appeal to. Make those little slips. It happens. You have to have a plan, ability to manage your problems effectively. How are you going to do it? Fall off the horse? Jump right back on.
And welcome back to Open Your Eyes. It is a Friday, fun Friday. And Jenny, well, for today, we know that you might sing for us this morning, but that's okay. We're looking forward to that. Here, we've got her on set with us, Jenny Lovell, mental health therapist. It's so nice to see you, Jenny, and you're always beautiful, girl. Always lovely.
Good morning, Belize.
But you know, we're so glad that you could be with us this morning. Back to school is here. You know, and the children at this particular point, they're in a different routine.
Well, we have to talk about the children and talk about the poor teachers and the parents.
The parents.
Parents are doing somersaults.
This particular time of the year, the routine changes.
Yes.
And so now we need to go back, or we need to ease back down into work, school, babysitting, all these things.
Yes.
So let's jump on into it.
Well,
what
today I want to talk about, let's talk about how to get the child physically ready. Your children physically ready.
Yeah.
But I also want to talk about getting mentally ready and emotionally ready. Because I'll tell you what, some of the kids, it's going to be a new experience.
Yes. Yeah.
And we don't know for some of them what the experience was last year. And so they may not be looking forward to this year. And so it's going to be very important for parents to emotionally prepare them, you know? Yeah. Also, teachers are going in, and we have to think about the fact that they're going to have a brand new classroom, brand new yes. And so it's a very anxious time for them too, even though they do this all the time.
Yeah.
So I want to start off there because I think while we're saying it here, it's not a practice that a lot of people have about thinking of getting the kids ready for school before the actual first day of school. It might be Sunday night before school opened that they say, oh, you have to go to bed early. But it starts long before that. Explain to us why.
It has to. If you've allowed your child to stay up late at night and they're watching television and they're tied to these things, the phones and the iPads, playing games, so they have really not been in a school mode at all.
Yeah.
And so you have to set back the routines now. And you have to start now. If you haven't started yet, you have to start now. Putting back the routine of a bedtime.
8 o'clock.
They have to set a bedtime, right? Because they need their 8 hours of sleep. For the teenagers, they need probably an hour extra. Remember, we've talked about this before.
Yeah, we have.
They need more time sleeping. So we have to get them back into the routine of bedtime, back into the routine of having a goal.
Yeah.
Parents need to sit with them and find out what will be their goal for this school year.
Yeah.
And
but how do you talk to a little one about goals?
well, little tiny ones, you know.
No, I mean not like 4-year-olds, but if you're like upper school or middle school, where they can still set a goal, but they don't have that concept concretized as yet.
That's
true. It's so important. You know, we do it with our boys that we work with.
Yeah.
And we ask them, what would you like to accomplish this upcoming year?
Yeah.
What would you like to have get done? Miss, I want to pass. Okay, but how do you want to pass? You want to scrape dog it, or would you like to do really well?
Yeah.
What are the things you need to do really well?
To get to that level.
To get to that point.
Okay.
And so those are the types of goals we set with them. But we have to, don't call it goals, but actually ask the child what it is that they would like to accomplish, what they want to have. I want to get I want to get a good grade. What's a good grade for
what's
you?
a good grade?
Right.
Gauge it.
Yes. And since I've said that, I need to also say this. You know, we have some parents who are, I call it parents on steroids. They want their children to get A's.
Yes.
I'm expecting all A's from you this semester and
you
every semester.
put the child under pressure for that.
It's so terrorizing for children.
You said that, and it triggered a personal experience for me because I think it's not just the parents. I think when you're in a school where it tends to be the culture, it rubs off even on children where parents are perhaps a bit more understanding about grades. If you do well, if you understand, like I always tell my nephew, I said, if you understand the concept and you pass, it's fine. You know, because that's the point of the test. The point of the test is that you understand what you're doing.
So the teacher knows where she needs to adapt or whatever.
But the pressure often comes because the kids become so competitive because the other kids have parents that are on steroids. And it's it's so unhealthy. I mean, when I think of kids like devastated over a 96 or a 97.
You're talking about 99.
Yeah.
And they're devastated about it.
Yes.
And at such a young age, it just can't be healthy for them.
It's not healthy.
So what do you do? So clearly, if you are one of those parents, you have to consider toning it down. But what do you do if you're doing it right, but the kids are getting the influence at school?
So one of the things they taught us this in the military, and I thought it's wonderful, so I always teach it.
Yeah.
Strive for excellence, not perfection. So these children are parents who want their kids to get 100s and they want them to have A's, and it has to be an A++. Strive for excellence. Are you doing your best? If the child comes home and they bring home a 95, they bring home a 75, did you do your best? That's the main thing. Excellence. Strive to do the very best that you can all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you're doing that, I am proud of you.
Yes.
But if you know in your heart that you gave it halfway, then that's not excellence. And that's what we're striving for is excellence.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I really want parents to hear me say that.
Yeah.
Because not all you may want to vicariously live through your child and have this child get hundreds.
Yeah.
But the child may not be capable of that.
Yeah.
And sometimes even if they are, why put that much pressure on the children?
I think a lot of times what I see with parents is they want to wear that super mom award or super dad award. And so it really becomes a bit obsessive. I mean, I've seen this in some schools.
Yes, I
It's
see
like,
it. I know.
I
The
don't know what
undue
they're doing. You
pressure.
can tell me as a psychologist. I just look at it and I say, well, you know, in the grander scheme of things, it's a lot of pressure for children.
It is.
Is that vicarious? What I call vicarious?
Yeah.
I couldn't make it as a ballerina, so my child will be a ballerina,
Yes.
and I'm going to push that child, or have the child in all these different after-school activities, and they still have to maintain an A
Agreed.
in
Yes.
school. It's so unrealistic.
Okay, so let's flip it then. So if I want to be, I want to tone it down a bit because I realized I was putting a lot of pressure on my child, and now I'm going to try your way, which is excellence. Now I know they've been able to get hundreds and 99s, and when they come back to me this semester and they bring me an 80, I mean, I don't feel like that's their excellence. How? Tell us the tips as to how you start to make that measure that you know your child has done the best that they can.
Okay, first of all, is your child anxious? Is your child one of these children, they're walking around, they look depressed and they're locking themselves in their rooms, things like this. And they're studying constantly because of the competition or because they're wanting to live up to my expectations.
Yeah.
Right? As a parent, I need to really check myself.
Yeah.
And I know I'm saying this, and there's some parents out there who are going, "You're right.
Yeah.
I want A's.
Yeah.
I want hundreds." Right? But also start looking at your child and how that child is living. Is this child isolating himself or herself because of all the pressure that they have on them? School years are meant to be enjoyed.
Yeah.
They need to look forward to school, going to school and enjoying the socialization with their friends, learning. It's a whole package. It's not just about the 100 and 100 plus.
Yeah.
One of the things I want to touch on, Marlene and Jenny, the reality is for a lot of students, they get nervous when they're in school because of, then again, the expectations.
Yeah.
And then find themselves in a position that they have to repeat. And going back to school now,
Can be a hard journey.
It can be a hard journey. Your mind now is, you're wondering what the students who caught up with you are going to say. What are my parents going to say? The peers, the teachers. How do you calm a student down so that student could get back to equilibrium and move on?
It's hard for them, especially they have their friends who went forward. In some cases, their friends have graduated, and now they were children who came from behind them.
Yeah.
So as a parent, you have to be so supportive for that child, because it's empathy, it's called. Try to put yourself in their shoes about what they're going through.
Yeah.
And instead of putting undue pressure on this child, be supportive. Be as supportive as you can. Offer them as much assistance as you can. And I don't mean going in and going, "Did you do your homework yet?" But coming in and saying, "How can I help you?
How can I help you?
Were you able to get all your notes? What do you need to do?" Be supportive, become more active in the child's life, but not in a way of pressuring the child.
I think one of the
And
questions...
I'm serious when I said that we have parents who are on steroids, because seriously, the way they push these children, it's not funny.
Jenny and Marlene, one of the questions that is not being asked to a student is, where are you stuck? Where's that point that you're not able to? And then we move on. We often, and I'm saying this as a parent, but I've got mine going on 9 years old, and I'm guilty of it. Telling her, I know you could do it, you're this, you're that, you're this, you're that, but I don't ask the question, and I'm sure you're there looking on right now and say, this might be true. Baby, what part you stuck? What part you think we need to move on? Just show me, and then we'll move on with that.
How can I help you?
How can I help you?
How can I help you? What else do we need? I know this poor little girl who was having such a hard time with literature, right? And she was being pressured to read all these books. She hated reading.
Oh my God.
Hated reading, right? So the thing was to get her to speak into, in general, love of books, right? And the parents can do that. You go and sit with her, find out where she's stuck in that book, right?
Yes.
And help her to maybe read, or you guys read together. Take the parts and read it out loud so she hears it. My mother really engendered a love of reading in all of us. We read. It makes such a huge difference.
But the kids will only read if they see adults
Reading.
And I keep on saying this over and over again. Clearly, all the research shows it. One of the things we know, kids will do what they see us doing. So if they see us on our phones all the time, they're going to be on their phones all the time.
That's right.
They're sponges.
And they love storybooks for a while, but when it comes to actually picking up the habit of reading, you have to see it.
They have to see us doing it, yes.
But I want to go back to something different, because I feel that what John is saying, and you know, when he said, oh, I know you could do better, blah, 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 I heard that, you know, and I think that what happens is that we parent the way we were parenting. And our parents were very much about, you know, excellence and go to school and listen to the teacher and do what the teacher says. And we were very much taught to be submissive to the system rather than exploring to learn and recognizing where our strengths are and our weaknesses are. Society now is more aware, because of science, because of technology, because of research, that there are different levels for each child and different strengths and weaknesses. Now, if I've never learned that as a parent, how do I now emulate that or be the supportive parent for that child? Where do I learn these skills, or where do I start?
Mr. Google is a good place to start.
I agree.
Mr. Google is a great place to start. There are lots of resources, loads of resources where parents can go. I mean, my goodness, I was looking over, last night I just looked up and I was looking at some research on the topic today. There's so much out there. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you. So Google it. Just Google and ask the questions, and all kinds of things will come up. People write blogs every day about how to interact with your children, how to do these things that we're talking about. Start right there. Start right there.
Let's start with the social issues too, because I also think that that's one of the things I don't want us to lose time and not talk about. You said it before, you don't know what the kids were going through the year before. And sometimes they're moving into a new class entirely, and that can be really scary for anyone. How do you get the kids ready for that, and to ensure that they'll take the proper place, not become the bully or be bullied or fall to peer pressure? You know, there's so many different roles you can take.
All kinds of things.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting? This is the age group. Let's talk about the high schoolers.
Okay.
Well, let's talk about primary school too.
Yeah.
The cliques. There are cliques that these kids get into. I mean, it's part of the, it's a part of the growing up stage.
It is. It is.
Right, the adolescent
Socialize,
stage. Right.
Yeah.
And so, as a parent, you know, I mean, hopefully you've been talking to them about the need to be accepted, and you don't really need to be accepted by anyone. You want to be forming your own self, you know, and all these other things. But as a parent, you need to be talking to your child and monitoring who their friends are and who they're trying to emulate. You want to be talking to them about who they're talking on the phone with, that kind of thing, without appearing to be a jailer. I'm serious.
Yeah.
You really need to be becoming I don't want to say your child's friend, but you want to be your child's confidant. You want that child to come to you first if something is happening. And so at school, I really want to be talking to my child every day, finding out. Some parents are so disengaged because they're working. So they
It happens.
they may come, the child comes home and it's more of an interrogation rather than a discussion.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's so important to have at least one meal with your children where you're finding out from them what's happening in school.
Yeah.
Your child may be getting bullied. Your child may be getting into some sort of cliques where they're actually trying to pull her into something, him into something. I'm saying her because I'm a her.
Yeah.
But
that's okay.
the thing is that as a parent, you need to be engaged with your children, especially at this age group.
Yeah.
I'm talking from 12 to about 17. You need to be engaged. You need to know what's happening on the ground with your children. I went off track. What was the question again?
No, it was talking about preparing them for social
Yes,
interactions.
yes.
And there are many different ways. You know, you could have a follower, you could have a bully, you could have a child that is being bullied.
Right, and is isolating.
Yeah.
You also need to be watching your child to see what's happening with your child. That's so important. Because if your child is being bullied, you should be the first person to know just based upon how your child is reacting.
Yeah.
But that isn't always the
home.
case. And so my question is, if all children seem to have a level of trepidation about going back to school, but a child that has been bullied will have that as well. So how do I distinguish? How do I know that this anxiety that is building about going back to school is more than just, I want to have more sleep time or play time?
Girl, you have to ask questions.
Yeah.
You have to ask the child questions. But another thing that parents aren't doing that is important that they do, you've got to go and establish contact with your teacher. You absolutely have to go. Teachers need to know that you are going to be checking on them and checking on your child. They need to know that. So as a parent, first day of school or even before school starts, go meet your child's teacher. So they know you're going to be a parent that's going to be showing up and asking questions.
Yes.
Right, number one. Number two, if your child is one of these social recluses, you need to really be helping that child. Ask your child what was your school year like last year. Let's review last year. What were the things you liked, didn't like, right? Who were your friends? What kinds of things? And ask it in a way so it doesn't become an interrogation.
Yeah.
Children are not going to answer you if you're asking them all these these questions that are
Interrogation,
yes, questions.
What do you do?
no
Where'd you go?
questions.
What do you do?
Who you with?
Who you talk to?
Yeah.
What they say?
You know, Jenny and Marlene, I always see one of the biggest things that would eventually kick things over is your deliverance, because I'm able to ask questions, but I would tell you, so babe, so who are your friends there? How things go? They like play? They're not like you? And as long as you bait them into how that conversation, how you want that conversation to go, they will ask the questions, because I feel that at that particular point, that's when they're seeing a platform. I wanted to say something else before we move on. And I'm hoping that before the school year, that we would have a show with teachers. So teachers can tell parents the expectation of a child, the expectation from that parent, and how things can move on. And I'm saying this because they are the ones who are with the students.
How many hours a day?
More than the parents.
More than the
More than the
parents.
parents.
Yeah.
We get home at 6 o'clock in the evening. By 9 o'clock, which is about 3 hours, the kids are in bed.
Yep.
We wake up, we spend an hour together, and then we move on again.
Which makes it so imperative, so important that you establish a line of contact with that teacher.
Yeah.
And that teacher needs to know that you are interested and you will be coming in and checking.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not just to go there to harass the teacher, but they need
Yeah.
to know that you're going to be you will be checking in.
You know, and I think John has a solid point. You know, we can't think that teachers are babysitters. They're there to impart knowledge.
Right.
We do the parenting
Right.
Yes.
at home.
Yeah.
But the contact hours with the teacher and the students are so much more.
A lot more.
So we're talking about that 2 weeks before school starts. So you said already that we need to reestablish bedtime.
Routines,
Yeah.
all routines.
Get the routines
Meals,
ready.
chores, all the
Okay.
things that they need to be doing, so that and let me tell you, schedules. They've got to have a schedule. I always tell parents,
Write
you're
it
looking
out.
at me like,
Yeah, because I'm seeing what you're saying as a parent. You know,
Yeah.
I'm seeing this. Yes.
I like kids to have those little calendars, but at home I want to have a schedule there. You do your chores at this time, you do this at this time, you have a meal at this time, homework, right? Bedtime.
Yeah.
And that needs to be there, and it needs to be there on a chart, especially if you have more than one.
I see it with my niece at 4. She knows. Oh, today's Sunday. Today's the day we do X, Y, and Z.
Yes.
Like they know.
They do.
I think is it the predictability of.
They love it.
Yeah.
They love having limits. Children need to have limits, boundaries. They need to know. If they know, they can follow a routine. This is why routines are so important.
I've got something to throw on in here. I could remember us being on a show and we had parents on. One parent was like, I leave my child to do whatever he or she feels because it's their mind and it's a part of the development. So I'm listening here and I'm hearing that, you know what, we've developed this routine. But some parents might tell you, you know what, I don't want to develop a routine because I don't want my child to grow up thinking that life is only about this and it's in this square right here, which I'm sure they're getting what we're saying in a different context. So what do you say to parents who would say, I'm not upon that. I don't want to put them in a new routine. I don't want to have them in a routine because I don't want for them to be in this box. It's reality.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Yeah. I know you're really passionate about it, but Jenny's ready to answer. Yeah.
Yes.
The thing is that we all have routines, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
When we go to a job, you have to be at work at 8 o'clock in the morning. You have to get up, you have to shower, you have to do all these things, take care of the kids. If you never learn how to set a routine or how to set things in motion to get things done to be on time, you're going to have problems if you wait until it's time to go work. You have to start now with the children, and children like to have routines. They do. Because they know the predictability, like you said, Marlene, of what I need to do. And when they have it written down, they go and they look at it and they know what they need to do. Parents who have this laissez-faire way, and I call it laissez-faire, the way of, okay, I let my child do whatever they want. It doesn't work. When they get ready to go to college, they will have to have routines. Because they have things that they have to do, schoolwork, all the other things they need to do, right? You have to learn about routines.
I think perhaps what the question is where do you draw the line that it's not rigid?
Rigid. Okay, and that's another thing. You don't want to be so rigid that the child can't decide they can't do this today, they have something else to do. The routine is there so that you have something set in place. But other things come up, life happens.
Yeah.
And you have to roll with that.
Yeah.
Right? But you can't walk around and say, well, I don't have any goals and I don't believe in goals and I don't believe in having routines. That's crazy. Your child cannot handle that.
And you can even schedule in things like playtime or even TV time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we're saying, okay, let's talk to parents at home. So you're home, and this may be very different for you, but you want to try something new. You get a paper, you draw out a schedule, and you put it together for the kids. Bathe time, eat time, whatever.
Well, I like the kids to do it.
Okay, you do it along with them.
The kids, yes.
Are we talking all ages? At what age is this most effective?
Well, the thing is, start the little ones too.
Okay.
It's really important to start little ones with chores. It's important to let them know what their bedtime is.
Yeah.
Right? And if you start doing that early, then as they get older into adolescence, you don't have the problem of them not wanting to go to bed or not wanting to do this or not. You've already established that very early.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think it's very important to do it as a family thing after a meal or before meals or something. Talk about it. You get the paper, you set it, and everybody starts writing into that paper.
Yeah.
Do it on newsprint.
Yeah.
Right? And then you put it into their own individual little schedules. But like chores, right? You don't want the older children to tell the little ones, okay, you're going to wash dishes every day. Right? So as a parent, you need to monitor what's happening. But you put the chores on.
Yeah.
You put the meal times or snack times on there. Homework time. You'll need more time for homework for the older ones. The littler ones will need less time.
Yeah.
And so you put all that, but everyone will have their own individual little schedule.
Yeah.
And so you set that up.
Okay.
Monitor it.
So set a schedule with your kids.
Yes.
Get them back into their sleep routine. Have some kind of contact with the school, if possible.
Yes.
What else are we looking at?
Goals.
The goals,
Again, we
all
have
right.
to go back to
Yeah, we'll go back
goals.
to goals.
Because you need to ask your children, what is it that you would like to accomplish this year?
Yeah.
And then you start saying, okay, so I would hope, right? Tell the children, I would hope that you want to not just pass, but you want to pass well.
Yeah.
What do you need to do that? Last year, what were the things that gave you problems? So those are the things we need to be focusing on this year, so that you do not have the problems you had last year, if there were problems, right? But it's always about making things better. And if you don't have a goal, you don't know where you're going. How do you know you reached if you don't know where you were going?
That's
Yeah.
But one
How
of
do
the
you
things.
build in reward systems for
Yeah.
that?
Ooh, very nice. I love that. Thanks, Marlene.
Well, I mean, I was having this conversation yesterday that I don't know what age, but at some point along the line, we start to feel like it's bad to celebrate accomplishments. And I think of that with the kids in my family, they just put a block up and it's like, yay, look at me. So they understood that completing or doing something is something to be celebrated. But somewhere along the lines into adulthood, we start to feel that that's no longer required.
I think it's so important to celebrate any victories, celebrate accomplishments. Really important. And you can do it very, small things, or you could do it big things when it's something big.
Yeah.
I know for us, we looked forward in fourth form. We were looking forward to prom, and the goodies that we could get if we did well with our grades, right? Yeah, I mean, these were goodies.
In primary school, it was gold stars on
Exactly.
Gold stars,
Oh, and these little kids love when they get gold stars and they get little stickers from teachers.
Yeah.
And they don't do that anymore, do they?
Some,
I don't know.
I've seen it. They still do it. They give them stickers.
It's
So there's a reward system there.
Yes.
But
So how do
before
you do that at home?
Same thing. Use stars. For the little
Put
ones.
something on a refrigerator and then you
ones.
stick things
Yes.
and then you allow them to take it off and said you actually accomplished. Put this on and put that on.
Yeah.
But one of the things I want to touch on, because time is not on our side, but this is very important. There are a lot of first-time mothers. There are a lot of mothers who now have to wean themselves off their child and taking them to school. How do we deal with this?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yes.
You just got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Is there
You
a preparation phase to it?
For
How do we
weaning
prepare? Yes, how do we prepare? The school is coming up in about 2 weeks. Now, first-time mother, first-time dad, so attached to your
Oh my
child.
goodness, it's harder
Scared.
for
You have to
you.
take them.
too,
Yeah, you have to put them in a setting where, oh my goodness,
You're gonna leave
how
them
do we-
crying,
leading
most
up
likely.
to
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
yes. I've seen
It's hard.
parents cry. Look,
It's hard. It's harder on us than it is on the
So what
child
do you do?
Yeah, what do you?
sometimes.
Yeah.
You can't cry in front of that child.
Oh, I had
That's
to
number
hold
one.
back myself. I'm sorry.
That's number one. You do not cry. You take the child. You take them there a few times before school opens.
Yeah.
You take them over and you show them. You take them
You're going
in
here,
and you show them the classroom. You have to orient them and get them used to the idea of this is where they'll be during the day, right? So by the time school opens in 2 weeks, they know where they're going. They're looking forward to it. You've got to make it exciting.
But then the
right?
schools aren't open, Jenny. How are we going to do that?
take them by
We need
the
to
area.
ask them to open it up 1
Grab
week
them by
before
the
for
area.
drop-ins.
Some,
But I'm talking. What about I'm talking about the little ones.
Yeah.
some teachers are there.
preschools
a week
are
before.
like,
They're putting up
They're
decorations.
doing, the
and-
teachers are
yes.
there doing their little
But
charts
orient
and
them.
things.
That's
Yes.
what you're saying. No,
Yes.
I'm just trying to check. for people.
Absolutely. You really want to orient them.
So this is a key, and I'm glad he asked that because I was thinking of transitional moments, and they're very serious transitional moments that happen in school. The first day of school for first-time schoolers are one. Moving into an upper grade where you're perhaps changing your class
Anxious
structure.
anxiety. Oof.
And that first year of high school. That's a tough one for people.
Love high school.
Yes.
So can we talk about these major transitions? Because I feel like those require perhaps a bit more thought than kind of just matriculating through the system.
Let me tell you, we just had with our boys in primary school. The teachers are they're very supportive and tolerant. They allow them to play. They play a lot, even in classes. Very distracting. The thing is, when they're going to high school now, as a parent, you need to sit with your child and go, baby, you're not going to be able to play in high school the way you were playing in primary school.
Yeah.
Teacher's not going to be following you to bring in your homework. Then you have to get those things done because with every new school that you attend, there are more expectations. And so you really have to sit with your child and let them know the playing has to stop.
Yeah.
That's number one. Number two, you have to get up. You're older now, so there are more expectations. You have to get up on time and start getting ready to get to school because you have to be at school on time. When you get to school, if you don't understand something, you don't just sit there and not ask questions. You have to find out from teacher. You're responsible for getting your notes. Write down your
there's no homework book that anyone will check for you. You need to do it.
You have to do
and get it right.
Things. Exactly.
It's even things like, in primary school, the bell rings and you got assembly and some teacher checks if you're there. But at high school, you got to just be in class.
That's right.
You can't be running in late to the classroom.
Right.
But it's funny because our kids start high school at a young age too. So they're really, they're always children until under 18, but they're still not even teenagers yet. Some are going in at 12, maybe 13.
I know.
So it's like
they still want to play.
Yeah.
They still want to play.
So how do you move them to that level of maturity? Because first form can be such a tough time for children. You are entering in with kids from all different schools, all different backgrounds, and it can be vicious for some children.
Yes.
I have to be honest.
Yes.
So how do I get my little one ready?
Especially if I don't know myself, because I didn't go to high school, so I don't really know, right? So it's very important. This is when you have to go over and talk to the teachers about what their expectations are of my child coming into the school and communicate that to my child. It's not just about buying those books and buying those uniforms and sending them to high school. It's also about doing the background work to help your child to succeed once they get there. Yeah. It's really important as a parent. If you really want your child to succeed, you've got to do some of the work for them. Yeah. Because like you said, some of them are coming 11, 12 years old, coming into high school. And they're babies and they want to play.
And sometimes they're going in with 14-year-olds.
Yes.
And it can be just, I've heard stories. First form can be tough.
It is very tough.
And it's brand new friends, brand new classrooms, brand new environment, brand new way of teaching, brand new rules.
Everything. And the thing is, as a parent, you really need to be talking to them about friend selection. Yeah. They've got to talk to them about the ones that are going to be dangerous for them, people who will get them kicked out of school. You've got to know who your friends are. Yeah. And not just, you be careful about and
I don't want to see you wrong that one.
Yeah, no, you really have to, she knows.
I hear it, yeah.
You really have to sit with your child and you have to do some of the research to help your child and guide that child.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a whole new environment, and you as a parent, you have to be supportive, understanding, and help to ease the way in for them.
So that's one critical transition. The other critical transition is high school to sixth form.
Oh, Lord.
Yes.
And we, as outsiders, don't see them as children, but they are children.
They're children.
And they're going from high school
into
to
free
for all at
free
sixth
for all,
form or university, whichever one.
Yes.
And there's
how do you prepare them? And that's a time too where I think parents start to disengage, like they feel like they're old enough and they should know better.
Just do go on.
They don't.
So what do I have if I got a new fresh high school graduate going on to either university,
being a freshman,
or sixth form? What do I need to do?
Girl, you have to sit your child down and have some conversations. And I don't mean at home. Take them to a little restaurant, go to the park, sit. First of all, you need to talk to them about drinking. That's one of the first things you got to, that's the number one thing.
Drinking and smoking.
That's right. You've got to talk to them.
Drinking and smoking and sexual relationships.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm. You have to start having the conversation. You should have been having that.
That should have been, preparation starts from young.
But I'm saying school's getting ready to open, right? These are conversations. If you haven't had them, start having them with your child going into sixth form, because they're walking in there and they have no idea what they're walking into. And cliques, I'm telling you, getting into cliques, they will have problems.
Yeah.
We're seeing all the the drunk driving that some of these kids do, and they get into cars with these guys. I'm glad to see some of the ads that they're putting up about not riding in cars with people, but as a parent, you really need to be talking to your children about the use of any kind of substance, especially alcohol, talking to them about the types of friends they're hanging out with, and not getting into cars with anyone who has been drinking, not going to parties and having open drinks or leaving your drinks around, all that kind of thing. Yes. You, as a parent, sixth form for me is the nightmare. That is the nightmare.
Yeah, that's why I said we have to bring, because they're still children.
There are children.
They're 16, they're 17, they're still children. And they're also coming from a very nurturing, I mean, see, we thought primary school is nurturing. It's naturally, because that's how we progress. But it's also kind of an abrupt change. So you go to keeping your own schedules. You know, the teacher doesn't care if you show up or not. Well, I mean, I don't know if they care, but it's not their responsibility.
It's not their responsibility.
Your job to get there.
If you don't come, then that's on you.
And parents are used to dropping them off at 8, picking them up at 3, or, you know, just seeing them off and having them come home. But now they have free time in between, and all these other things.
And they can leave the campus and go do all kinds of things.
Their friends drive.
And if you have not been establishing a relationship with that child, they're not going to listen to you by the time they get to sixth form.
Yeah.
So you absolutely have to be having all these conversations beforehand, talking to them about limits. You know, you as the parent, you have to be having a relationship with this child. Seriously.
And you know, just because we didn't really touch on it, I think one of the things too that we do have to talk about is about their sexual and reproductive health, because this age they can be, if they're drinking a lot, they can be girls especially, I'll say that, but we know it can happen to boys too, but they're very vulnerable. Date rape. You know, you're in a school setting now, there's a party any night, Monday, Tuesday, a study session turns into a party night, turns into a drinking session, and leaves you open to sexual violence.
Let me tell you, you need to bring someone in that will talk about that in a whole segment.
But it happens, and we know it. I went through that system. I know, you know, what was considered normal before is completely, is now recognized as something that is unacceptable. And so how do my little girl is graduating from SCA or Paloti or any high school, and especially if you're going from all girls to co-ed, and they're going into this environment, and I think I've taught them well, but there's so many other elements. How do I have that conversation about ensuring your safety?
First of all, you need to go and Mr. Google, get information, especially if you have a girl child. But your boys are vulnerable too.
I am angry.
Okay. But the thing is, you really, really need to sit down and get information so you can talk to your girl child, because I tell you, this is when the coercion and the peer pressure, and predators, because now you're living in an apartment, maybe you're sharing an apartment.
If you go to like UB or Galen, or
you live in Belize City, you know.
And there are predators that hang around these places.
Yes, there
because there are lots of young girls. And so as a parent, it's not being dogmatic, it's really being an ally, talking to your child about all these things, and I don't know if we have it here, but the HPV vaccination, I have to talk to my child about all those things. And if I'm somebody who shies away from that because you shouldn't be having sex at 17, you know, I miss the moments of telling my child the information they need to have. And yes, they are children going into a really adult setting.
Yes,
right?
It is.
And there are predators. Yes, there are.
But one of the things I think.
How much can you trust how much I've taught them? Because I think that's where parents have. You see your child in high school, they're performing well. You know, they follow the rules, and so I think they're gonna be okay in that setting. But you know, so should I still have that talk? Should I still go?
Yes.
You know, you don't look like you'll go and get drunk and perhaps put yourself in a vulnerable situation. But by the way, don't. You know,
you have to sit and talk with your child. These people are going to be their friends, and they're with them every day. You're in Belize City, they're at UB in Belmopan. They're not near you. Yes, they will think about what you've told them, but you need to be having these conversations regularly. And again, not in a dogmatic way, but more of a conversation and helping your child to see all the dangers that are in there.
Yes.
Because there are.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing about if you're going out with someone, you don't want to leave your 7-Up uncovered for a minute and go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Because people are doing all kinds of things. And there's every kind of drug imaginable is here in our country.
That's right.
Right? And there's a lot of predators out there. And parents, you need to know there are predators out there.
Yeah,
And they're in the colleges.
we need to teach them how to detect predators as well. Because these people creep up at you.
Yeah.
They're your friends, or so you think at first, and then.
Yeah, I was calling Belmopan the rape capital because a lot of these kids, these kids would get into cars with friends and then they would run a train on them.
Oh.
Yeah, it's really horrible. And these are young kids and they don't know better. They trust these folks.
Yeah.
And you need to be talking to your child about who you can trust and who you cannot.
And I want to be clear here, because I know that people often feel like boys are ostracized. You want to have this conversation with your boys too,
And your girls,
in
yes.
both
Boys and girls,
areas.
yes.
They can't be predators, fall into a group of predators, and they also have to be mindful of their own risks as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
Boy and girl children.
Yeah.
Because they take advantage of our boys too.
Yeah.
You know.
All right, so that was, I had to bring that up. You know, I know there's a current rape case out. We still see a gross level of victim blaming taking place. And I just keep on thinking to myself, this is a far greater culture than we talk about sometimes. And I know that some of the university, junior college settings can be a breeding ground for this
it's
type
a
of
breeding
behavior.
ground.
So I
really
just wanted
is.
to bring that up. We talked about getting them ready from preschool, show them that same attention going into junior college, going into high school, because they're still your child.
They still are.
And still young.
Final advice. 2 weeks before school opens, let them just have fun.
No, this is no time for fun anymore.
Yeah.
You can still have fun talking to them, but you really want to be preparing them. You've got to prepare them from the babies right up to sixth form. Thanks for talking about sixth form.
Yeah.
That's really important. They're still children, and for some of them, they're still babies. They're 16.
Yeah.
I'm shocked that 16-year-olds going into the UB anymore.
Into UB.
Yeah.
University. Like, this is.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Tough topic.
I know, I left it on a bit of a... it's okay. We got some useful information out. That's it for Bruk It Down with Jenny. We'll take a break and we'll be back in a few.
These are the people who I want to appeal to. Make those little slips. It happens. You have to have a plan to manage your problems effectively. How are you going to do it? Fall off the horse? Jump right back on.